Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Suave, and today I'm going to be talking with you about the class Warlock. I've been playing Warlock for the majority of my Destiny tenure. I've started originally as a Warlock, and I have played other classes, but this is the class that I just keep coming back to. This video is primarily going to be focused on a competitive PvP outlook on these classes, so not a whole lot of PvE conversations, and I'm not going to be focusing on any fun builds. This is just going to be what is best performing in competitive PvP right now, and my personal outlook on each subclass and its abilities. I'm going to give a brief description on each subclass's abilities as well as their supers and how I think to most effectively use them. And I'm also going to go over what kind of stat spread you should be going for and certain mods that you should be looking out for your Warlock's abilities. I wanted to keep the video short and not blather on too much, so I'm just going to get right into it. I hope you guys like it. So to start it out, I'm going to be talking about your stat spread. I highly prioritize mobility for the competitive PvP. In my opinion, you can either go with mobility or you can go with discipline mods, and discipline mods are more specifically for Controverse Hold on the middle tree Voidwalker. If you're not a middle tree Voidwalker running Controverse Hold, then I would highly recommend getting to 10 mobility. It will help you with your strafe speed, which is important in gunfights. If you are strafing faster than your opponent, you're a lot harder to track, and it's going to help you win in a lot of engagements. And it helps you utilize your rift a lot better because you can strafe in and out from cover a lot faster than without the mobility. So resilience as a stat is something that I don't spec for and I don't think about. I try to get the lowest resilience that I can on each piece of gear. As long as I stay above 1, I'm typically fine. And the reason why I stay above 1 is because 1 keeps you from getting 2 tapped with Memento Mori on Ace of Spades, and that is basically the only thing that I use resilience for. I know there's a lot of people out there who put a lot of focus on hitting certain breakpoints of resilience to keep themselves from taking less shots to kill with particular weapons, but overall I don't think that's a worthwhile stat investment, so it's not really worth going for. With recovery, if you aren't going for a discipline build, this is where I would put mods into if you've hit max mobility. I don't have any recovery mods currently. I haven't acquired armor that allows me to do anything other than slot in mobility, but I think that hitting max mobility and then putting the rest into recovery is still the way to go for competitive Warlock PvP. Discipline here, this is like I was talking about before, unless you're a Controverse Hold Warlock, there's really no reason to spec into Discipline. I know that Top Tree Stormcaller has like one of the strongest grenade abilities in the game with Arc Web, but I don't think that it's worth it to spec out of mobility because you lose too much in a neutral game. So Intellect is a really good stat for Dawnblade. If you play a Dawnblade and you are fine with your mobility and resilience stats where they are and you're not going for a max mobility build, this is where I'd use Intellect mods because the super in Dawnblade is so strong. Even with the incoming nerfs that they announced in the TWAB today, I think that Dawnblade's strongest characteristic is its super, and you should be trying to get that as soon as possible. Strength is unfortunately a useless stat for most Warlock builds. I haven't found a good use for it other than memeing or just goofing off, so I wouldn't ever use a strength mod for anything. If you really like Devour, that might be something that you could do, but I'm not going to talk about Devour in this video. The first subclass I'm going to be talking about is Dawnblade. The first ability that I'm going to talk about is Firebolt grenades. So these grenades are exceptional at hitting people behind cover. So if you tag somebody up and you get them weak and they slide around a corner and you've got a Firebolt grenade ready, you can just pop it around the corner and hopefully it'll tag them and kill them. Burst Glide is the general Warlock jump that I would recommend for all PvP subclasses. The reason why I recommend Burst Glide over Control Glide or Increased Control or Balance Glide is due to the fact that when you're using those jumps, you're kind of just a sitting duck in the air. You have really predictable movement when you're gliding around, and Burst Glide also allows you to do something called Warlock Skating or Warlock Surfing, which gives you slightly faster on-ground speed, and I'm going to be including that in next week's video on movement, so keep an eye out for that. Alright, so the other grenade that Dawnblades should be using in competitive situations is Solar Grenade. Solar Grenade I would typically use on the control game mode. They're really good for area denial. As you can see from this next clip, they kill relatively fast, and if somebody overcommits and stands in it a little bit too long, they're basically toast. So use it on cap points, choke points, basically anywhere where people are going to be forced to run through, or you can use it to cut people off from going through those particular spots. It's a really good area denial grenade. So the next ability of it's Fated for the Flame. It is what makes the bottom tree Dawnblade super so good. It enables tracking on Dawnblade's projectiles, and when they land, they launch a streak of deadly flames. It increases the damage of each individual projectile by a lot, and I'll show that a little bit later here. The next perk we're talking about is Igniting Touch. It's just the general melee ability. Like I said, Strength's kind of useless for Warlocks. It's not really something that I'd spec into, and while this does increase the damage of your melees a little bit, it's not really going to ever affect your gameplay, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Next perk we're going to be talking about is Everlasting Fire, and this is the main portion that makes the bottom tree Dawnblade so good. Extending your super in any way while you're in your super is phenomenal. It's super strong. Destiny 2 revolves around two things in competitive: super and heavy. If you have a really good super and you've got really good heavy control, you're going to win most of your games. So keeping your super up as long as possible is just as important as getting it first. When using Dawnblade, you move extremely fast. As you can see, your projectiles do track, and you can extend the duration every kill that you get. With just one kill, you can throw 8 Dawnblade projectiles. It also has the ability to one-shot most supers, including Spectral Blades. The last ability I'm going to talk about is Phoenix Dive. I don't have any footage of this ability, but what it does is it brings you from being in the air immediately to being on the ground, and it causes a little bit of health regeneration, but it's not really the main purpose of it. The main purpose of it is if you're in your super or you are floofing above a doorway and you want to get down really fast, this is how you do it. I don't have any good examples of me using this ability, but it's one of those things that once you get used to and you utilize properly, it is an effective tool. Moving on, the next subclass we're going to be talking about is Stormcaller. This is my favorite subclass tree, and it's actually what I spend most of my time on. The first thing I'm going to talk about with you is Pulse Grenades. Pulse Grenades are my favorite grenade to use with Stormcaller. The reason being that every time the Pulse Grenade pulses, it has a chance to proc Arc Web. So if anybody on the enemy team steps back into your grenade and it continues to pulse, they're going to be tagged with Arc Web right away. It kills in 3 pulses and is really good at area denial. It fills the similar role as the Solar Grenade with the added benefit of Arc Web. The next ability I'm going to be talking about is Arc Bolt Grenades. I'm not really going to say a lot about these. They're exactly the same as Firebolt Grenades with a different skin. The main difference being that these will proc Arc Web. Burst Glide on this class is, again, it's the only jump that I recommend using for the reasons that I listed before. The next ability I'm going to be talking about is Chain Lightning. What this does is causes your melee ability to chain between enemy targets. It will chain back and forth repeatedly if the targets stay within range. I think the maximum amount of ticks is 3 for Chain Lightning. Most of the time there is no use for this perk. Very rarely it will cause you to get an extra kill or a double kill, but most of the time it just causes a little bit of extra damage on people. Here's an example of it. The next perk we're going to be talking about is Transcendence. What this does is causes your Storm Chance to last longer if you cast it with full grenade and melee energy. Most of the time I don't play around this perk, it's just something that happens when it happens. I wouldn't hold on to a Storm Call for any reason, including a slightly extended duration. The next ability is Ionic Blink. It's the reason why I choose Top Tree Stormcaller aside from Arc Web. Being this mobile in your super is incredibly important. What it does is it causes your sprint key to allow you to blink while in your super, and you can cover insane amounts of distance and keep yourself extremely unpredictable with your movement. Stormcaller on any regular target will kill in 3 ticks of uncharged, and it will kill almost immediately with a fully charge. How the charges work is the longer you hold the trigger, the more damage Stormcaller will do. There's 3 tiers of damage. In most situations, I would recommend you tap people and then blink just to keep yourself from taking damage and thereby lengthening your super. Against supers, Stormcaller has the edge in most fights, especially melee-based supers, because it kills them quickly and you can backpedal as you're charging and you will take out most people before they have a chance to get to you. It kills really fast. Do not try to tap kill targets if they are in super. You will not kill them very fast. Arc Web is the last perk I'm going to be talking about here. And what Arc Web does is anytime you get a tag with an arc-based grenade, you will chain damage to nearby enemies. This perk is extremely strong right now. It is pretty overpowered, especially against teams that like to stack up. And that's the main reason why I run Top Tree Stormcaller, is it punishes people for doing good things such as team shotting and sticking together and coordinating. I have one example of it. I'm going to play it for you now. As you can see, I wiped the entire team in this Iron Banner game with one grenade, and it's not like they stood in it for very long. They tried to spread out immediately, but because there was so much arc web damage going out, they didn't really stand a chance. Alright guys, so that basically wraps it up. I think that if you stick to either bottom tree Dawnblade or top tree Stormcaller, for the most part, you're going to have a lot of success in the competitive playlists. If that's where you want to play, if that's where you want to do good at, this is a good place to start. So that's all I have time for this week. Next week I'm going to be back with a video based on movement and positioning, and a little bit more in depth into loadouts such as weapons and perks that you should look out for on your armor. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, leave a like. Make sure that you subscribe if you want to see more content, and if there's anything you want to see in specifics, leave a comment down below. Thanks.